who do we need to bring in from our network to help us set up a business?
The three key partners in your business are your CPA, your attorney, and your insurance agent.
Hey everybody, Randy here with Stay Broke Business Consulting. Welcome to day 8 of building $1 million business in 1 year. Today we thought we'd try something a little bit different. We launched with our day one. Day one consisted of launching our first videos, but what we haven't really touched on is the behind the scenes stuff that was going on. So that's why we brought my VP, Jenn Pearce, in here today to give us a little bit more detail on the things that go on behind the scenes when actually setting up a business and the right way to do it. So hi Jenn, welcome.
Good to see everybody today.
So let's talk about who do we need to bring in from our network to help us set up a business?
Right. The first thing is to sit down and make a business plan and a business goal. And in that goal, you're going to want to meet with 3 very important key partners in your business. The 3 key partners in your business are your CPA, your attorney, and your insurance agent.
Okay, great. Let's break those down one by one. So we sat down, we came up with a business plan, and we hit the go button. Who's the first person you call?
The insurance agent.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure we're properly covered and to see what coverages we would need. I take that information so I can also share it with our CPA and our attorney when we meet with them.
Okay, so I don't know anything about business and I'm setting up a business. We're not actually going out meeting people. All we're doing is sitting here recording. Like, why do I need insurance, or what kind of insurance do I need to be thinking about?
There's lots of lines of coverage that are available, general liability, umbrella, those kind of protect an overall, because even though you're just sitting here, if you're ever out in public and want to do things in public, you have to have those coverages. So you're always looking for what your needs are.
Okay, great. So then your next call is the CPA?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's kind of a joint call. I mean, you're kind of working with your CPA and your attorney at the same time. You're going to have a lot of back and forth during that part of the process as you're communicating between the two to make sure you have everything covered.
Okay. So then we move into our attorney. What kind of stuff does he handle for us?
The attorney's going to make sure you have the best business structure set up. He's going to be watching for everything that can protect you from liability purposes. I
know that we use our attorney for our registered agent. Like, can you explain what that is?
And for your Secretary of State filing?
Yes.
Correct. Yes. So you usually want to have a good registered agent on file. Most people use their attorney for that. They'll be the one to get all correspondence of anything that is filed to you or your company publicly.
Okay. How long does it take to do all this stuff?
It can take about a week if you want to coordinate everything. If you prepared ahead, you have to make sure your business model is up to date so that you can give that information to all 3 of your partners.
Okay. So we already have attorneys, CPAs, we have a broker for our insurance. We have all these things in place already. So that makes it a little bit easier for us to, when we hit the go button, know who to call and what to talk about. But how do you, I guess whenever we first started our first business and you joined the team, like, how did you choose who we went to for what?
You got to look at each person to see if they're going to fit your model. There's expertise in every line. Insurance agents have specifics and things that they specialize in. You're going to want to make sure you have a broker that has a wide range of contacts for different carriers and different types of policies. Okay. Attorneys, you're going to want one that's specified in business activities. Attorneys come in different areas that they specialize in, so you want to make sure that it does fit your model. Same thing with your CPA. Okay.
I know that we use 2 different law firms for our stuff. One is more like litigation and documentation, I believe. Is that right? And then the other one is more, he's actually a CPA as well. He's not a practicing CPA, but he does our accounting law type stuff, right?
Correct.
Can you talk about both of those a little bit?
That's true. We do have one that really works with us on any kind of bookkeeping needs or any kind of corporation needs. Then we have one that helps us on special agreements that are going to protect us from any kind of suits or any kind of disputes.
I know one thing that we've talked about that helps us a lot whenever we're entering into these new businesses or we're trying to decide what direction we're going to go with something is the fact that our network communicates, our attorneys communicate with one another, even though they're with different firms, and our attorney also communicates with our CPA.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, we have a network that all communicate very well together, which is very helpful.
So I come into the office with this new big idea. We're going to start this new business. Like, take us a little bit through your process on your side of things.
Once I sit down and figure out what we're going to do for insurance purposes, how we're going to handle getting the business set up, the best structure by working with the attorneys, then the next big key is who's our target? Where are we going to get the financial flow? What is our budget going to be? What are we going to target for our first year?
Right. So I always say I'm the ideas guy. I come with these ideas, and I've gotten better over the years, I think, at thinking through them before I start presenting them to the team. But I know from your side, you're the one doing the logical thinking and asking me the right questions. Some of the stuff that you just mentioned, which is super helpful for me to kind of pick a direction and make sure that we're all on the same page and going the same way. But aside from like the setup, you do a lot of other stuff for us. You want to talk about like kind of your daily duties you work for our main corporation and then do work for all the entities. You want to talk about a little bit of your day to day?
Yeah, sure. My day-to-day is pretty much filled up with participating with our staff, making sure our day-to-day task lists are completed, making sure our day-to-day banking, accounting is all up to date, communicating with any clients' needs that we have along the way.
So in this, in the new business with Stay Broke Business Consulting, we talked about the three facets. You're the first one we're bringing on to talk about what you do. Do you want to talk a little bit about the services that you oversee with the bookkeeping and a little bit of your background?
First, let's go into the experience and background. I've been in risk management, compliance, and accounting for about 30 years. During that time, I've been really good about learning everything I can in each of those areas. Every person I worked with, every company I was engaged with, I always learned everything about the position plus every surrounding area during that time. That is what gives me so much of the experience that can help anyone in a bookkeeping need or compliance.
Okay, so I hear you talk about compliance, and I thought I had a pretty good understanding of what it was, but it was cool. We went to a client meeting a couple weeks ago to meet with a potential client to do bookkeeping and some other things, and I actually watched, compliance in action when you were talking about joining all the pieces and parts together and making sure everything's protected. Can you kind of explain what compliance is?
Sure. Compliance touches every area of your business. It means your HR, your human resources, your payroll, your accounting, your bookkeeping. All of those things kind of come together for a compliance aspect. We'll give an example. For HR, your employee files, they all have to be set up properly. There is an organization that has to be kept for every employee. That has to be with state standards. Compliance kind of touches on your federal standards and your state standards for every aspect of your business.
Okay. Yeah, for, me being on more of the operations or field side of things, depending on what entity we're talking about, it's, I'm still trying to learn and wrap my head around these different things. So you talked about compliance. Now what about risk management? Can you kind of explain that?
Risk management. Let's talk about that. Risk management is a part of every business. It's just how you mitigate that risk. It touches on a lot of key departments like legal, HR, accounting, finance, but it's all in how those people come together to develop plans to help your business be prepared for anything that may happen in the future. At one business I worked at for risk management, it had a big involvement with fleet and fleet management. We had a fleet of 4,000 vehicles, so we had to make sure we were compliant with DOT and also compliant not only with DOT, but also with our bookkeeping practices for those vehicles. It protected the company from anything in the future in case there was an incident.
All right, now that we have a little bit of your background, let's talk a little bit about the services that you oversee and offer here at Stay Broke.
Here at Stay Broke, we have a full bookkeeping service that's available. We also do a la carte. We tailor it based on each client. Each company can have it tailored to what their needs are. For instance, we can do full scale, which involves payroll. It can involve HR. It can involve AP, AR, all of those areas. But we can also do like a short service or a minimal service that involves year-end or month-end close.
Okay, what does that entail? Like, I'm definitely not a bookkeeper. Like, I rely heavily on you and your staff to make sure that my stuff's in order, but like, I don't fully understand. And now that we're doing this together, and I'm going to meetings with you and stuff, I'm starting to catch on a little bit. But for somebody like me, a layman, can you explain like what that means, what bookkeeping is?
Yeah, for most small businesses, they can do a month-end close. A lot of companies like to make their own entries during the month or post their own bank transactions and have it reviewed at month-end to make sure it's in the correct buckets or general ledger accounts. Some companies want people to post those things all through the month, all the entries that come through their bank or their credit card statements. That's what makes up your general ledger.
So what's the importance of that, keeping up with all that stuff?
It drives your P&L. And that's very important as a business owner because you want the correct buckets and you want to see where your money's going. If you know where your money is going, then you know where you need to go yourself as a business.
Okay. So I know from my side, bookkeeping is super important because when I come into the office and I'm trying to figure out this puzzle of the day and I say, Jen, I need information on this, this, and this. The way you organize it for my needs, you're able to just kind of go in and what do you do for that? When I come in and say, Jen, I'm trying to figure out if I should raise or lower the price on this. I need information on this, this, and this for the last 2 years.
Right. What gets us there is we have the right class codes and the right categories on our general ledger. Those kind of things are set up in advance, and then you can do the monthly analysis or the year-end analysis or the quarterly analysis, whatever's needed for your business. It just takes the time of setting your P&L up properly in the beginning. We have to make sure the class codes are correct and the categories are correct. Then from there on, it's pretty easy. Just monthly, classing it or categorize it to the right place.
Okay. And it's I feel like this is something that, I've struggled with wrapping my head around, but then I've also seen clients have issues with this where maybe their books aren't up to date and they're asking us to make decisions or do things and you keep saying like we can't.
Right.
Why can't we?
That's a great example. We have clients that come and ask us to help with the budget. So we can sit down and look at what they do have on their books, but when they're missing information, we don't get a full picture of where they've been. And if you don't know where you've been, you don't even know where you're going. So you have to have everything categorized properly to really financially analyze it to even know how to set a budget. So you're right. We're not able to help folks and give them a full picture if they're not giving us all the full information.
Because at that point, we put ourselves in a situation where we're relying on what they're saying and trying to build off of that. And if they're giving us incorrect information
Right.
we can't give good information out. And then they get mad at us when our numbers are off.
Right.
Right. So that's something that, we've dealt with on our side and we try and learn from and how to mitigate that. And, just being upfront with the clients, like we can't give you numbers if you don't have input.
Right. And a business is never too small to really track their data in detail. It really can drive where they're going to go for the next year or next 5 years.
Right. Something I want to go back and touch on, because I know this is something we've dealt with over the years. What's important about having a good CPA? I know we've been through, I think, 3 CPAs in the last 5 years, right? We had one more before that, before you came on, I believe. But it felt like they were all over-promising and under-delivering. And then we finally found our CPA, which we will be bringing on to meet, hopefully, in the next month or two. He'll come on and talk about some of this stuff in more depth. But the reality is, finding that right CPA changed how we do our business. Can you, give more detail on that from your side? Right.
Finding the right CPA as an accountant is very important. You have to make sure that you speak the same language and you really connect. You have to have a connection with your CPA. Make sure the CPA firm that you're working with is not overbooked with clients. Otherwise, they might not give you enough attention on your account. Sometimes they grow too quick and they just do not have the staff to handle the amount of accounts they have taken on. Doesn't make them a bad CPA. It just means they took on too many clients. And we've kind of hit that in some of the ones that we've been with in the past.
I know my favorite thing about it is we meet at the beginning of every year after we get our previous year filed. And then we talk about our plan for the year and he kind of gives us guidance and direction.
Right.
And then you're able to take that and kind of guide me based off of that. Right. And it all kind of pulls together.
Yeah. And it gives us a target to aim for every year. And it gives me something to kind of judge off of quarterly to see if we're getting there.
So I know a lot of people say, well, I don't have enough money to worry about saving money or saving money on taxes. What's the point of a CPA? And what I've kind of learned is that yeah, we come up with this plan at the beginning of the year, but things change and like maybe we're not going to hit it, but we can pivot and communicating with him to continue to guide us on the best way to get the best outcome at the end of the year, even though our plans have changed. That's been a big thing for us, especially as we pop up with new entities. And
Just like plans change in a business, so does the tax code. That's a really good reason to have a CPA on hand that's going to stay up to date on all those tax codes so that we don't have to look for those things and try to plan it. They do that for us.
yeah, because they're changing almost by the day, it seems like.
They can, you're right. And they're going to be up to date on all those things for us.
And I feel like this CPA that we're working with now is the first one that's ever like continued to update us throughout the year on changes and things to like aim for, or, try doing this instead the rest of the year because of the benefits.
Or now's a good time to buy a vehicle or not a good time to buy a vehicle because they know what the depreciation write-off is for the year. And they're able to guide us.
All right. And this is something that a lot of people get caught up in. That's like, well, it's a write-off. It's a write-off. So they justify buying stuff that maybe they don't need or they can live without because it's a write-off. But do you have an understanding of like how that actually offsets and what that means?
For your write-off for your assets for the year or your purchases for the year.
Because it's not like if, say, I'm paying $20,000 in taxes, I don't get to go buy a $20,000 piece of equipment, and now I don't have to pay that $20,000 in taxes.
It really depends on the tax code for that year and depreciation schedules. You may be able to depreciate a small amount of it over time, or you may have to depreciate all at once, which would help you. But if the tax code isn't in for that year to be able to do taking it all at once, then it doesn't help your business.
I know, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, I know we got to the end of the year, we had a fair amount of taxes that we needed to pay for our construction company. And our CPA said, well, if you can go ahead and put money into this or put money into that, that'll save you some taxes. But we didn't have the extra money because we were putting our money into something else at the time. And then what did he say? Well, it's not going to offset that much. If I put $5,000 in, it was going to save me like a few $100s or something like that in taxes. So it's not, if you don't have the extra money, it's not a justification to just waste money. And I see that a lot.
Right. And that's another reason to have a good CPA and a good accountant or bookkeeper, because they can advise you on what those general ledger accounts have as an effect at your year end. Just like your meals and entertainment, that's not 100% written off every year. So you have to know your general ledger, know your accounts, and know where you're booking things.
Okay. And I know one other important thing that I think of when I think of, kind of your position here is, and I don't know if this falls into risk management, I guess so, but audits.
Right.
So I feel like you try to always have us prepared for any audit. From what are the different kind of audits that we have to worry about, and like how do you prepare for these?
Right, there's quite a few different audits, and if one person finds out you go through an audit, usually you get knocked on the door by another. So we have audits from the federal government, also with your IRS. You have audits with your compliance with the state, meaning if you have any payroll for an employee, you can get audited by the labor board for those kind of reports. And also your insurance agencies, they actually do audits every year, general liability audits, workers' comp audits. So there's quite a few that occur throughout the year. So we always try to be prepared. We make sure we reconcile monthly, quarterly, and of course annually. We prepare all year for those things that we know are coming up.
I feel like that's something that separates us from other bookkeeping services, is that we're not only thinking about, trying to keep your books up to date, but we're also planning ahead for any audits that might come out throughout the year or might come up throughout the year, and making sure you're prepared for those. How do you explain that to potential clients?
Right. That's kind of the risk management portion of the job. It's making sure the client has everything they need to be prepared in case they have an audit. As simple as your HR files with the labor board, having those things in order. Workers' comp audits, general liability audits, making sure your sales are reflecting what your true sales are, so your premiums are correctly and properly issued. That can mean a refund to you as your business, or it can mean you pay more. So definitely important how you categorize your goods. We had one client that we did the books for, and that was very important, how their sales were categorized, because a good portion of their sales were at a lower rate of premium and a good portion were at the higher rate of premium. So you had to make sure that you were properly categorizing sales and income each month so that they didn't get hit too hard on insurance premiums that they shouldn't.
All right. I think we kind of talked about or I think we kind of hit on the main three topics, with our CPA, our insurance, and the law side of it. Let's talk a little bit more about what you do for us. How long have you been working for us now?
6 years, right at 6 years.
Okay. So in that 6 years, your job has changed and evolved, and so many different things have happened.
Right. I left a global company that I was with for 13 years, was ready to kind of downsize a little bit, stop traveling, came to work with GCS as an office manager.
Right.
Thought I was going to stick with office management.
Thought you were going to get a chance to slow down.
Exactly. But my family told me I never slow down anyway. So.
Right. So, if we get into, our relationship, I think the success to our businesses and our relationship is the different strengths and weaknesses, and that we offset each other. Whenever I was looking to hire, somebody that could grow into the position that you've grown into, I needed to hire somebody that that didn't think anything like me, that, I'm sporadic and I can be messy and I'm unorganized. And it seems like you're the exact opposite of that, which means we might butt heads sometimes because we look at things two different ways, but at the end of the day, we get all the results we need because you're looking at it one way, I'm looking at it the other. Like, what's your perspective on that? How do you see that?
I see it the same way as you do. There are times that we have a little bit of conflict. We both see things different ways from different sides of the business. But the great thing is we both have the same common goal. And that's why it works. So if you have business partners and employees that have the same goals as you do and see where you want to go, and each wants to get there, then that's what makes it a good relationship.
So I guess on my side, it's just making sure that I'm clear about our goals and the direction we're heading. And then one thing that I tell everybody is I don't make any decisions by myself. Like, obviously I have the final say in everything we do, but anytime I do anything, I try and sit the team down, all of our managers, and we talk about what we're going to do. Right. And I look for feedback and stuff like that. And that allows me to pick a clear direction. I see other entrepreneurs starting a business and bringing somebody just like them into it. And that tends not to work out because now you have two people with the same goal, but kind of a very similar path to get there, but just slightly different. And there's nobody to pick up the slack on the other stuff.
Right. Or bounce ideas off of.
Right.
So it's beneficial to a business to have the setup and the model that we have. And it's a big piece of making and developing your leadership team, which is actually another piece of what we had to do to get where we are now and starting the business, is to have a leadership team dedicated and designated.
I think we touched on a lot of different things. Obviously, we didn't go too much into detail on all these different topics, but as we go through this process and build this business, and do more videos, I hope to touch on different topics in more detail. We'll be bringing in our CPA, we'll be bringing in our attorneys, and we can talk real specific stuff with them. But is there anything I'm missing today, or anything else you feel like our viewers should know?
Just in closing, tracking and being organized. The last piece of it as you start your business is making sure you have the right accounting system set up and the right bookkeeper.
Everybody, I talk about Jenn and tell everybody that she's the real boss, but you hear everybody say, I need to find a Jenn in my life. And it's like, I've got lucky that, I found you at the right time where you're ready to make a change, and we were able to make that work. And it hasn't always been smooth, but I feel like we built something pretty awesome together. And it's real exciting to see where we're going to head from here. So with that being said, remember to follow, subscribe, and make sure you comment below. Do you like this kind of stuff? Do you want to see more interviews? What kind of content do you like? We talked about bringing other people to interview. Who would you like to see us bring in? What topics would you like to see us cover? Any information you can give us down below. We'd love to read about it and think about it. So make sure you don't miss anything. Follow, subscribe, and remember, stay broke.